Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Mindwhack, a podcast all about AI for content marketers. Each episode, we talk about what's new in the world of AI and content and share real tools and strategies that you can start using right now. My name is Lori Kirksted.
And I'm Spider Graham, and it is our pleasure to be back with you on Mindwhack. Today, Lori, we're going to broach a very important topic, I think, and anybody who's doing any kind of content marketing. You want to kind of introduce us as to what we're talking about?
Well, today we're going to be talking about something that we all need, but not everybody knows how to do efficiently: lead magnets.
Okay, and well, let's talk a little bit about what a lead magnet is for those of you who may not know. Think of it this way. You want to start a conversation. You're a business, maybe you're a brand new business, and in order to be an effective business, you need to have an audience. You need to have people you can talk to become your prospects and or your customers in the future. So what a lead magnet allows you to do is find a place to start an initial conversation. And in a lot of ways, this might be something that you're offering for free. And it could be something very simple, like here's a special PDF of 12 things you need to know how to bring your business to the next level. And when somebody goes to download it, you say, hey, can I get your first name and your email address? And from that point on, it makes it very easy for you to at least have an email conversation with them. So we're talking about things like infographics. We're talking about things like free courses. For example, at Gravity Clamp, we offer free courses. And it's just something you can do to give people the reason to get involved. And so you can start a conversation. That's really what we're doing here.
That's the key thing. You have to give something if you want to get something. That's in content marketing, we're all educators. We need to give before we get. In lead magnets, the key thing here is giving something that people actually want.
Well, and it's also very important to not only give people something they want, but give people something that's relevant to their needs. And let me just backtrack here. So back in the late 90s, because I was there, I remember this. we would create these sweepstakes and we would say, hey, we're giving away this brand new car, fill in all this information. And back then you could ask people for a lot of crazy stuff. Like, if you ask nicely enough, people would pony up their mother's maiden name and their social security numbers for you. We've gotten smarter since then. But the problem with this model is you get all these people getting involved. I want to win a new car or a flat screen TV or whatever you're giving away. So all this data flows in and everyone's like, look at us, we're collecting data. And it sounds great until you get to the point where after the sweepstakes is over, what you have is a database of people who don't really care about your brand or product or service. They really just wanted to win a car or a flat screen TV. And so in this scenario with a lead magnet, you don't want to give away something that's not necessarily going to connect you with the right people. And I say this at trade shows all the time where they're always like, hey, drop your business card in our goldfish bowl, you'll win an iPad. So what you have is a bunch of people who want to win an iPad, but they don't know who you are, what your brand does. So if you were to say, here are the 5 most important things you need to know to run your HVAC company. Well, if your target audience is people who run HVAC companies, guess what? That's going to be key. So the people you end up talking to are the people you really should be talking to and not people who just simply want to win something.
Mm-hmm. You know what that reminds me of, Spider? You hit the nail on the head with trade shows because I come from the ed tech world.
Yeah.
And even though it was nice to have a line that wrapped around, the wheel of stuff, it's like there were so many tchotchkes and people just wanted stuff and it's all vanity metrics. And then, sales would say, what am I supposed to do with this? So it's not worth it in the end.
No, I used to pick up stuff for my kids. Like, yeah, got to get 2 of each. Like, can I have a, and we actually, there was a joke years ago with the trade shows that we could tell the economy was totally bottomed out because all that was available at the trade show were pens. It was the year of pens, nothing fun. But anyway, the bottom line is that give away something that the people you want to talk to most of all are going to find relevant to them and their needs. Other people are going to be like, I wouldn't want that for any reason. Mm-hmm. That's not your audience. So we want to be able to go find the right people to talk to. Now, of course, this is going to lead us into kind of some best practices. And Lori, if you don't mind me kind of just freestyling for a moment here, one of the things I think that's super important whenever we're talking to any audience is to understand who they are. Mm-hmm. And so a big thing we need to be able to do, of course, not only know who our audience is, but understand what their pain points are. What, as an organization, what can we fix for them? What is it that we can do that will make their jobs easier? And of course, that's where our value as an organization comes into play because, hey, you've got a problem, we offer a solution, and this is how we can work it out. And so it's really, and we've talked about this in the past, it's building relationships. It's this idea of how can I build a relationship with someone who may not know my brand or me and develop that over time into something where they say, I want to buy from you.
And you know what else too, if we're talking, whether it's B2B or B2C, the words you were using are sort of like help me do my job better, like within the job context, but people tend to forget that just like we said in our last episode, we're talking people to people. So I always like
Right.
to identify how is the ideal customer persona going to feel after their interaction with you
Well, exactly
personally.
right. And I mean, back in marketing 101, it's really all about emotions. It's buying and selling
Right.
emotions in a lot of ways. And you're right, making people feel comfortable. And again, making people feel comfortable with the decision to do business with you
Mhm,
because you come across as being competent and somebody who can meet their needs. Bottom line.
mhm. But coming back to the word magnet though, like let's kind of dissect what that is. Like the whole point of this is it's really supposed to attract the right people, but strongly. It's not just let's just hope these trickle in, right? So you better appeal to that a person's emotion because there's a lot of other things that can be clicking on.
Well, and that's so important. And I think also just understanding what it is that people need or want is hard to do in a vacuum. You
Mhm.
need to be in a situation where you know who your customers are to a certain degree. And a lot of this starts with this idea of personas. And a persona is really just a way of saying if we had to kind of identify who our ideal customer was and kind of put some meat on the bones, who is that person? Maybe, mothers with children under the age of 10 who, live in the Midwestern United States or whatever, right? There's something that we can do to really target down and niche down on finding the right people. And again, we've had this conversation, you and I, Lori, where, when you ask somebody who's your target audience and they say everybody, you just want to cringe. It's just so cringeworthy. It isn't. And so identifying who you want to talk to and who these people are is such an important part of this. And again, it's not happening automatically. You really have to know a little something about why you have your business, who are you trying to talk to, and why. And then we'll talk a little bit more about this in a moment, but then you're going to have to figure out the best channels to communicate with them. Am I grabbing them to have an email conversation with them in the future? By the way, an easy enough process with really good ROI. Or is it going to be some sort of social media conversation? What are we doing? How are we identifying these people?
Mhm.
So, but anyway, so knowing who your audience is, I mean, it kind of sounds like a no-brainer, but it's really an important part of everything we need to do here. Let's talk a little bit about probably the most important thing that we're going to need to figure out is, what do we want to talk to these people about? So being able to come up with these different ideas is super important. And there's no right answer to anything. What are some of the lead magnet things that you've worked on in the past? Do you have any things you can share on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm doing a lot of them right now with my own personal consultancy. But in the ed tech days, you really only had limited channels to get to the DMs.
Sure.
So you really had to have something of value. I wouldn't say it's the same lead magnet as, putting something up on a LinkedIn ad or like a strategic landing page. But what I'm doing right now is I have, what I do is I solve random acts of content. So my lead
Right.
magnets are here are the top 3 ways you are committing that sin, and here's how to not do it. So it's the first little piece of information that I can say, here's a problem I solve. You might not even know if you have the problem, but the next part of that is the lead magnet is the start of the relationship, as you said. It doesn't just stop there and you have the lead. What's the next step? So
Right.
I typically follow that with some kind of self-assessment because it's not enough for me to tell you. It's like you need to have that come to Jesus on your own.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's why I like a lot of interactive and personalized lead magnets versus stuff can have a lot of value, but the more personalized, the more you feel it's for you, the more heightened emotion.
Well, absolutely. And again, knowing who to talk to is such an important part of this. And it kind of leads back to our first point. And being able to create ideas to say what's going to resonate with that audience. I want to share with you just something real fast with just a brand that's out there. There's something called anyword.com. And
Yeah.
Anyword is really there to help people, as they say, they drive marketing results. But one of the things that's really very useful, let's see if we have it in here, is the brand voice element, where you can actually go into those different personas and say, okay, I'm trying to find someone who looks like this. Here's the age group, here are the pain points. And once you've identified that, then Anyword can really come in here and help you to home in on that, to identify more about who that person and what makes them tick. And again, by knowing who your core audience is, it's really going to change how you communicate with them. And think about this just as a quick and dirty, right?
Yeah.
Let's say your target audience is a bunch of 20 somethings. All right, that's it. Those are the people you cater to. Is that going to be a different audience than if your target audience were people who are retirement age? Yeah, absolutely. Does it mean they're different human beings? They're going to have different expectations, maybe different approaches, different needs. So they're human beings, and let's give them credit for on that both sides. But the point simply is we want to make sure that if we're having a specific conversation with our 20 somethings, that we're using language that pertains to their needs, and just offers that pertain to their needs as opposed to a different audience. And so going in and kind of drilling in and thin slicing your audience and knowing who they are is such an integral part of any successful lead magnet. You have to know, again, who you're talking to, and these tools can help. All right. So the third thing I want to talk about is let's say that we're able to do this. Let's say we're able to go and get people to sign up for stuff. So how does that happen? Well, usually there's going to be some sort of a pop-up or some sort of offer in an email or something on your landing page that's going to say, hey, by the way, click here. You can give me your email address, give me your first name. I'll get you on our mailing list. We'll share this great stuff with you, or download this amazing thing right here, right now. And so what you need to think about also is that working? And so this idea of being able to optimize these landing pages is such an integral part of what we want to be able to do here. And this idea that suddenly if I just build it, they will come. I don't know, Lori, how's your experience with that?
What I kind of find fascinating is we put all this effort into putting this creative together, to putting the content together, and then it gets passed around to key stakeholders, and everyone has an opinion on it. It takes 100 years to get approved,
Oh, yeah.
and then it just gets put out into the ether, and that's it. And so lucky if you measure it, let alone do an A/B test on it. So what I like about this is that it we're supposed to be optimizing and personalizing already, right? And I
Sure.
know lots of marketers probably have lots of tools in their tech stack that go unused or for whatever reason, right? But for this, AI just helps you take that manual process out of it. And I think that is something that needs to be explored, that it's not just let's just do it because we can be doing this already. Maybe this is the barrier to entry, right? It's that's why people aren't doing it, because it's so manual. Maybe this is the change in I don't know, the culture of optimizing landing page, that people will actually pay more attention to A/B testing and measuring because it's easier to do.
Well, that is if they understand the process. And, again, A/B testing
Yes,
is one of
right.
those things that if you don't know really what you're doing or how to test it or how to verify it,
Hmm.
and we've had these conversations about the number of people who actually run online display ads or, email campaigns and never
Hmm.
measure anything,
Yep.
because it's like, I really don't know how to do that. I know how to spend the money. I know how to buy the media. I don't know how to do
Mhm.
that other thing. And there are some great ways to jump on top of this. Again, just
Yep.
as because sharing is caring. Being able, there's a web property called unicornplatform.com.
That's
And
a
what's
great
really
name.
great here is that yes, you have your own unicorn. Maybe you are a unicorn and you want the world to know. So an opportunity to come out and use AI to be able to actually create these landing pages that we're talking about. Again, so much of what we're seeing with AI really is just making things faster. Is you
Yep.
don't need to sit down with a blank sheet of paper anymore and go, how are we going to do this? And instead, you can say, you know what? Let me go to a tool like Unicorn Platform. I have another one here also, by the way, that's kind of fascinating from After Effect is how is our landing page doing? Where are people going? And it basically allows you to see the analytics of what people kind of touched and how their cursor moved and create a heat map. So you can see, are they
Yeah.
paying attention to the thing I want them to pay attention to? As it turned out, they're totally ignoring that. And they're over here looking at this other thing. The feedback that we need, again, one of the biggest challenges about being any kind of a marketer is we don't know what we don't know. And so we may make these assumptions when we're setting up campaigns and say, I think this is going to work out for me. But the bottom line could also be that we're totally wrong. I mean, it's happened to me, maybe once or
Yep.
twice. And the point simply is that if we have a tool that can help us, here's a landing page based upon what your criteria, what you put forward. And
Hmm.
then also let's test it. Let's test the crap out of anything we create because we're going to assume that there's always room for optimization.
Spider, you know what this reminds me of? Like AI is, I treat it like my little buddy. I work alone in my office. I don't have anyone to bounce ideas off of all the time. So I know that I don't work well alone. When I have someone to bounce ideas off of, all of a sudden one idea becomes, blossomed into 11. So I look at this between, let's say you have Canva. Everyone knows how to use Canva, but if I'm starting from a predefined template that anyone could pick, or if it's a blank page, I'm not a designer. I don't really know what to do, but incorporate that layer of AI, and given the right inputs, it's going to help you get something to react to. It's that first step that's going to help you with suggestions and that feedback that tech tools have, but we don't really have that feedback other than canned suggestions that could go for anybody.
Well, and 100%. And I think the thing about, again, that this idea of as a jumping off point, you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time.
Right.
And you're so right about working by yourself. And I used to joke that what I needed is somebody come to my office once in a while and tell me that some of my ideas were total garbage. Just that would have saved me so much time and money. Like, are you
Yeah.
insane? Why would you think this would work? Because you become a focus group of one going, hey, that's pretty smart of me, But being able to come and look, something like ChatGPT, which most of you are hopefully familiar with, but if you're not, what if I came in here and said, create a list of 25 potential lead magnets. So we'll keep it open-ended.
Yeah.
But something, okay, if I come in here and say, I want to be able to do something like this and focus on my area of business, I'm sure it could do a pretty good job here. But let's just, for the sake of argument, I'm going to pull this up here so you guys can see it. And ebooks, which is a very popular choice, white papers, checklists, templates, webinars, mini courses, an email series, infographics. If you have never thought about lead magnets ever before, the opportunity now to come in and say, oh, wait a second, I can come up with a quick list of 25 possible jumping off points. Not all of them are going to pertain to your needs or the needs of your audience, but some will, right? Will a quiz work for what you're doing? Offering a coupon. There's a lead magnet right there. Give me your email address, give me your name, and we'll let you download this coupon to buy something from our store, 25% off our next course or whatever we're selling. Now, it may not be as appealing as a value exchange, but it is a value exchange. Anyway, there's 25 things. ChatGPT has no problem going out and doing that. So these tools are fantastic. Not saying the answer is necessarily here, but this can generate or spark an idea. And I use this all the time. Lori, I know you do as well. Because again, the working by yourself part of it is just, you don't always know where to start. What a great place to start. And now, I've got some ideas to start working with.
And you know what? When you are the input to the system, it only amplifies what you put in. And we speak the language of content marketing. So if it gives us garbage, we should be able to decipher. It's like, nope. No, this is not what I want. Let's recalibrate here. It's not like it's this silver bullet where it's like, okay, great, print it out, we're done. It's that nice little first step, that little ant, that sort of voice in the back of your head that's a little help,
It's kind of like having your own muse or assistant, as Lori pointed out. Just this,
there you go.
Somebody
Besides you, I mean, you're my muse, but this will be my second muse.
Somebody to bounce ideas off of. But it's so important, again, and I love that. Don't ever hit that button and say, there we go, I got it done. The article's written. No, it isn't. AI wrote it. You haven't written it. You still have work to do. I'm gonna argue that point forever because I still think there's always room, again, for improvement. Right. So let's say we're able to do this. We're able to generate these potential lead magnets. We have some good landing pages. We're optimizing the landing pages. How do we get all this stuff into our sales process? And again, this idea of what is the sales process has to be something that's been defined before you even get to this point. Yep. Am I talking to people by calling them on the phone, which means I'm going to need a phone number to contact you? Am I incorporating something to social media? Am I grabbing email addresses to have an email campaign of some sort? How am I breaking my audiences down? Is there different criteria? There's a lot of things that we need to take into consideration here. Anyway, go ahead, please.
This is a huge breakdown because everyone has had, I would imagine, has the experience. If you're a marketer, your job is to work with your internal stakeholders of sales, and you're lucky if you both have agreed upon SOPs and, everyone's doing their job. But how often does that happen? How often do people update the Salesforce records,
I mean, it's just the number of horror stories I could tell you sitting down with sales teams saying, hey, tell me where it hurts. Like, well, the marketers keep sending us the wrong one sheets. Do you talk to them about what your needs are? Like, we don't even know those guys,
Right?
How can marketing and sales not be holding hands? They should be sitting. And I've seen them sitting on completely separate floors in the big building, and they don't talk to one another. And I usually say, okay, your homework for this week is go find somebody in the marketing team, invite them to lunch. You need to create that connection. Because again, this idea, like somehow we're supposed to both understand somehow magically what it is that each other needs is impossible. So go find out what the sales team needs. If you're responsible for driving traffic to other group of people, work closely with them. And to your point, what is our standard operating procedure? What is the best way for us to make this happen? So
Because
we
what do
have
you
to
think?
know this. Yeah, go
What
ahead.
do you think your salesperson is going to say when they get a hot lead and it says they've interacted with this lead magnet and this lead magnet and read this blog? They're going to say, "So what? What does that mean?" They need to be a partner from the beginning to define that, because otherwise you're defining a relationship that you're going to hand off and have nothing to do with, and you're making so many assumptions.
100%. Yeah, you need to understand everyone has to be on the same page. So I
Mhm.
think sales and marketing they're not separate things anymore. They're the same group of people working toward the same objective. They might have slightly different approaches as to whether they're client facing directly or not client facing. That really
Yep,
is the only differentiator, I think, at this point.
agreed.
And then finally, and this is not a point to be put toward the back of the bus here, but the reality is measure the impact. Is it working? Because I'll be honest with you, you may have the best of intentions, you may have these thought this thing out, you may have met with a lot of other people who have an opinion to share, but until you go in and say, how are we doing? A, are we reaching the right people? B,
Yep.
where are we getting people? Are people converting? Are they coming in just because we have a great freebie that they like, or are they actually people we want to have a conversation with? Optimize your stuff. They basically, bottom line is optimize anything you can optimize and start with the assumption that no matter what you're doing, there's room for improvement. Because, you set up a landing page, you go, there we go, we're done. Pat
There we
myself on the
go.
back. You're not done. You just got started. Maybe that landing page is just going to be a dog. You just don't know. So by optimizing and measuring the impact, is this working? Are we getting the people we want? I expected a higher percentage. What can we do to get that? Maybe the emails we're sending out in response aren't really exciting. People aren't opening them. Look at your analytics.
You have to. And you know what I love about even just something as simple as ChatGPT? I was working with one of my clients and we had a basic banner ad promotion for like a new product launch. And I got some raw data back, and I am a data person, but I don't love sitting there and analyzing it. So I asked the prompts, can you tell me what this data says? And what I love is that I don't have to hire someone out to do this small task. I can have the people focusing on data focus on, like, the more holistic things that are going to build the business. But I have that barrier to entry. Like I said before, that's kind of crumbling, where it's not taking away the jobs that I would farm out because you can't do everything, but the things that I need immediately. So, like, you're always going to have I hope, your operations and people who do your analytics on your marketing team, but maybe you just want to do something quick on your own, because that's the larger a business grows, the more siloed and protective
Oh, yeah.
those become. And it's like, I just want to see some of the data, or like, so this kind of helps you analyze things that maybe you wouldn't be able to on your own. So what I do.
No, you're absolutely right about that. And I think, again, understanding what the different parts of your business are supposed to be
Mhm.
doing, you're not trying to take work away from people, but if what you need is a quick answer on something, and I love the idea of being able to use a tool like ChatGPT to saying, can you do an analysis of these
Mhm.
results and kind of tell me what it's saying? Look for the patterns, look for predictive analytics, something I can work with here. It's so important what we're doing going forward.
Yep, absolutely.
So, well, we haven't covered every single point of everything we need to cover ever, but we're at time for today, and so I think it's just important for us to be able to, again, lead magnets can be incredibly powerful because they allow you to start reaching out and finding the right people to talk to. We'll start there. Once you have those people to talk to, then an opportunity to go in and have the right conversation with them through the right medias, and then measure, determine if it's working, and optimize because it's never perfect.
Always. And these are things we should be doing already, but this is, I guess, the hill that I'll die on, is that, yes, there are things we should be doing, but you could point your fingers all day and say, why aren't you doing this? There has to be a reason, right? Half the time it's people are so busy they don't come up for air, under resourced, whatever. I don't really care what the reason is. What I'm hoping is this will help people dip their toes in and see what is possible. So maybe it can get integrated more into larger systems down the road.
Well, and not only that, if the right person is able to use these tools, then they basically can handle a lot of these things themselves on a preliminary basis. And, from writing copy really quickly
Mhm.
to doing an analysis on that copy to finding the target audiences to, anything we need to do as part of our marketing cycle. One
Yep.
person can handle it with these tools kind of as their assistant. So it's again, it's a scary time for a lot of us. It's a
Yep.
heady time, but the possibilities are just kind of amazing at the same time.
Yep. But hey, wrapping this up with lead magnets, like you said, when you're trying to get people to give you their information, people are savvy. They know they're going to be marketed to. You better be giving them something that's worth value. And the whole point of using AI is that you can find that information faster, easier, cheaper, whatever. But the fundamentals of a good lead magnet never change. These are just going to help you do it in a more efficient way, right?
Exactly right. That's the best we can put it.
All right, so that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in for our second episode of Mindwhack. I am Lori Kirksted.
And I'm Spider Graham, and thanks again for joining us this week. And we look forward to seeing you in the near future. Cheers.